No one warns you, but there is a silent war going on in every room you enter. And it is not a war for food, territory, or status. It is a war for attention. And whoever controls the attention controls everything. The common man enters a place seeking acceptance. The dangerous man enters as if he were already part of that environment. And not because he says something, but because his energy communicates even before the first word. This is not magic. It is refined strategy. It is reading the field. It is a social skill as rare as it is feared, and for that very reason, dangerously powerful. Most men still think that seduction is about women, as if it were a set of memorized phrases to arouse desire. But real seduction has nothing to do with what is said, and everything to do with what is provoked. It is not about the object of desire. It is about self-control, control of time, of silence, of the body, of the gaze. It is about the tension you create without touching, the presence you project without moving. It is a psychological game, ancient, subtle, but absolutely lethal for those who ignore its rules. Seduction, at its most raw, is deep emotional influence. It is making the other person feel something, and not knowing why. Nietzsche said that power is not in what is said, but in what is silent with authority. The presence of the dangerous man is made of this: gaps loaded with intention. He does not compete for attention. He attracts it through contrast. While the rest beg for visibility, he stands out for his strategic silence. He does not rush, does not explain himself, does not sell himself. And exactly for this reason, everyone wants to buy him. There is no need more human than trying to decipher that which is not completely understood. And that is why mystery is more seductive than any declaration. In school, they taught you to solve equations, ask for permission, memorize formulas, but no one taught you to control an environment with just your presence. No one taught you to deal with uncomfortable silences, to maintain posture under tension, to hold your gaze when everything inside you wants to flee. They made you a technician, not a strategist, a rule follower, not a soul reader. And then you grow up, enter the real world, and realize that the winner is not the one who works the hardest. It's the most magnetic, the most charismatic, the one who learned to dance with collective emotion. This dance, by the way, is not new. It is ancestral. Esoteric cults and religious sects have always used seduction rituals to form leaders. Rasputin, for example, did not command with positions but with his gaze. His dominion over the Tsar and the Russian court was not imposed with force. It was built with hypnotic presence. He understood that the body speaks, and that those who control their own body control the bodies around them. And when you understand this, when you internalize that seduction is not an act, but a projected energy, you stop trying to be accepted, and you start to be recognized. This recognition does not come from what you flaunt, but from what you sustain internally. And therein lies the great secret. The male presence is perceived even before it is noticed. It is an invisible tension that fills the space, a type of silence that speaks loudly, and that says, I am here, I am in control of this. I don't need to prove anything, but I can provoke anything. This man, who has learned to exist without begging for validation, becomes an enigma. And the human brain is addicted to enigmas. Jean Baudrillard said that we live in an era where everything is an excess of image and lack of substance. In the world of networks, being visually present is easy. Being emotionally present is rare. That is why the man who dominates his own energy is seen as an exception. In a sea of men who give themselves away at the first direct message, the dangerous man gives nothing away. He suggests, he observes, he provokes, he guides, and for that very reason, he leads. Not because he imposes himself, but because his magnetism makes it impossible to ignore him. The biggest mistake is to think that this type of energy is born with you. No, it is built, it is trained, it is molded in every gesture you control, every impulse you hold back, every silence you choose to maintain. It is an inner war. It is emotional discipline. It is behavioral aesthetics. And above all, it is intention. Intention to no longer be a spectator of one's own life, but the silent protagonist who controls the narrative of others without saying a word. Seduction begins long before flirting. It begins in the way you walk, the way you wait, the way you remain silent, the way you choose not to react. It is the ability to master tension instead of running away from it. This is what transforms an ordinary man into an invisible and irresistible force. And this no one taught you. But the consequence of not learning is to live trying to be accepted by a world that values those who take a stand without asking permission. And perhaps this is the most uncomfortable lesson of all. While you are trying to be noticed, the dangerous man has already become unforgettable. And that is precisely where the abyss opens wide. Because while few discover the art of dominating the environment with presence, most remain prisoners of the cruelest mistake of the modern era: desperate exposure. In the past, men were trained to read gestures, decipher silences, and sustain the emotional tension of a conversation. Today, they memorize catchphrases, hunt for likes, and get lost trying to engage a woman as if trying to manipulate an algorithm. The truth is brutal. The more predictable you are, the less value you have. We live in a culture that confuses accessibility with attractiveness, that believes that being available all the time is a virtue. But desire, that ancestral animal that still lives in the human psyche, is not driven by availability. It is driven by tension, by scarcity, by contrast. What is too easy tires. What reveals itself completely dies before being discovered. And the modern man, in trying to be desired, gives himself up too quickly, talks too much, shows too much. He becomes transparent and therefore disposable. Imagine the scene. You meet someone. In 2 days, they already know where you work, your traumas, your exes, your playlists, your hobbies, your favorite jokes. And then, the silent question arises: what else does he have to offer? The answer almost always is nothing. Because he gave everything before curiosity was born. Because he confused sincerity with neediness, connection with haste, presence with exposure. The valuable man is the one who offers little, but always enough to leave a question mark. And it is exactly this gap that keeps the flame burning. Marshall McLuhan, a communication theorist, said that the medium is the message, and in this game, the medium is you. Your presence, your energy, your rhythm, your tone. What you communicate without words is worth more than any well-written text. And the fatal error is not only in talking too much, but in not controlling the channel through which your message is transmitted. Men with anxious gestures, fast speech, forced laughter, unstable eyes. All of this betrays insecurity even before the first sentence. The body betrays the chaos that the mouth tries to hide. And worse, in times of hyperconnectivity, where everything is immediate, the man who does not control his own emotional timing becomes an extension of the cell phone. Noticeable, predictable, irritating. He responds before thinking. He reacts before feeling. He offers himself before being asked. And ironically, it is this urgency that makes him invisible. The rush to be accepted generates the opposite of what he wants: disinterest. On the other hand, the man who controls tension, he stands out. He is not afraid of the silence of a date. He does not speed up the conversation to fill the void. He observes, he feels, he listens with intention. And when he speaks, each word has weight. Because he does not try to fill space, he is the space. And that is why everyone wants to inhabit it. He understands the central paradox of seduction. Desire is born in absence, and it expands into unpredictability. This is where the energetic triad that defines everything emerges: the lukewarm man, the insecure man, and the dominant man. The lukewarm man is the one who lives in a state of emotional neutrality. He doesn't offend, but he doesn't provoke anything either. He is pleasant, but forgettable. The insecure man is the one who screams neediness with every gesture. He needs to be validated all the time. He lives for external approval. The dominant man, on the other hand, doesn't seek acceptance. He offers direction. He doesn't seduce out of necessity. He seduces out of presence. He's not in search. He is what others seek. And why is this so dangerous? Because this energy changes entire social dynamics. In corporate environments, he leads without having a position. In social groups, he is the center without trying to be. In relationships, he is the one everyone wants to decipher, but no one can control. He creates the atmosphere. He sets the tone. He attracts, not because he chases, but because he has learned to walk at his own pace. And pace is everything. As Heraclitus said, a man's character is his destiny. But today, the destiny of the weak is to be forgotten before they're even noticed. The modern mistake is to try to be seen all the time. It is to live like a human billboard, exposing one's own soul without anyone even asking. And in the end, what is given without criteria loses value. True strength is in what you hold, not in what you give. It is in what you choose not to say. And therein lies the mystery. And the mystery is the beginning of all fascination. And while the predictable disappear in the crowd trying to prove their worth, the magnetic man is remembered because he never revealed everything. And that is exactly why the true game of seduction begins where others end. When the world watches you, waiting for yet another performance, you respond with intention. When they press you for answers, you surrender silence. Because the man who masters the game doesn't need to play it. He has already understood that fascination lies in the interval between one sentence and the next, in the rhythm he imposes when speaking, in the way he breathes before responding, in the minimal gesture that communicates security long before any argument. This is the man who takes his time, who doesn't compete for space, who doesn't fight for attention. Because he is the space, he is the presence, he is the silence charged with meaning. What makes him rare is not what he shows, but what he can sustain without having to prove anything. This man has understood that everything around him responds to the image he builds of himself. And that is why he takes care of this image with almost spiritual discipline. He understands that seduction does not begin with the other, it begins in the mirror. And this is where art becomes protocol. It's no longer just about understanding, but about embodying. The body is treated like armor, strong, aligned, present. Every muscle communicates something. Shoulders that don't slump, a chin that doesn't drag, posture that doesn't beg, an appearance that doesn't seek approval, but reveals structure. Getting dressed is no longer about covering yourself up. It's about making a statement. What you wear tells the world what it can expect from you. Aesthetics is silent storytelling, and the conqueror never dresses by accident. But it's not just the body that speaks. Silence is perhaps the most neglected weapon of all time. While the weak stumble over each other trying to be heard, the magnetic man understands the power of a pause, because every pause carries tension. And every tension well managed generates desire. He knows how to observe, listen, wait. He's not afraid of the void between one speech and the next. He uses it as the soundtrack to his authority. He doesn't need to explain himself, because what he doesn't say is what resonates the most. And when he speaks with intention. His voice is deep, slow, rhythmic. Not because it was mechanically trained, but because he has mastered it. The tone, the intonation, the choice of words, everything dances in time. He doesn't speak to please, he speaks to guide. Like a theater actor who knows the impact of each pause, each inflection. Because he knows to charm is not to impress, it's to make the other feel something new and deep. And this depth is born from a personal mission. The man who has no purpose lives adapting himself to the expectations of others. But the man who has direction carries in his gaze a peace that cannot be faked. Ambition, goals, values, all of this builds the backbone of the masculine energy that attracts. Because women don't fall in love with promises, but with the certainty that emanates from someone who knows where they are going. And that's why mission and magnetism are Siamese twins. One cannot exist without the other. Now, perhaps the most delicate point, the balance of polarities. The conqueror understands that dominating is not crushing, that power is not shouting, that presence is not oppression. He carries within himself the brutal side, but tempered with sensitivity, the ferocious side, but conducted with empathy. He can be war, but he can also be poetry. Because a man who does not know his feminine energy, his moral, sensitive, and emotional side, becomes an aggressive caricature, an instinctive animal without conscience, a brute who will never charm, only frighten. This balance is what transforms a desired man into an unforgettable man. He does not overflow his impulses, he channels them. He does not need to mark territory because the territory is his. He does not get excited by validation because he has already validated himself internally. And precisely for this reason, everything around him responds with respect, attraction, and reverence. He does not need to manipulate because his existence is already magnetic, and so he lives as if he were being watched all the time. Not out of paranoia, but out of integrity. Every gesture, every word, every choice, everything communicates who he is. He is an example even in anonymity. because he understood that seduction is not about conquering someone on the outside, but about becoming undeniable on the inside. And the world feels it. In the end, this is the most dangerous skill a man can master. Becoming a human being so whole, so magnetic, so subtly irresistible that he no longer needs to chase anything, because he is what everyone silently longs to achieve.